How do domestic animals benefit people? Give milk and wool. Who gives milk? Cow. And goats give wool. I was a trailbreaker in many therapies. We have taken Kurion, holding therapy, ABA. We have added sensory practices, sense, tintorium, sound therapy, speech therapies. We have also replaced them with speech leader therapy, microcurrent therapy, Atlant correction. We've turned to David through Skype. We've practiced Matis and it didn't help. The sad part is already over and the happy part begins. We moved to Thailand after the first grade. He graduated from the first grade and we went to live to Thailand by car. We had been tired of Chelyabinsk, how cloudy and dirty it had been. And we have been always dreaming. We had already used to live in Thailand and in Turkey, and the sea itself is also healing. And at first it was great during the summertime. We didn't have classes, but he became strong, physically strong. He went to the swimming pool 2 times a day. He even went there on his own, but I was watching him from the balcony. But he got stuck very often. For example, he left for an hour and swam 20 minutes out of this time, and for the rest 40 minutes he would stare at the cars. And he was 8. And he went to school. He spent there 3 months, and there was a regression. We took him home, besides it was too expensive, and we began to homeschool him. And at home, and I guess this is why I felt so bad during 6 months before infodiving, because now he was at home 24 hours straight. And his compulsive speech, I'm not exaggerating if I say that 80% of time Maxim doesn't sleep, he talks, used to talk, to whisper, to yell, and for me it was like, and what's the use of that he's able to count, that he's so smart, but here he behaves inadequately all his free time. I stopped writing to my blog. People wrote to me, you said everything was going great. I did, but check the date. I wrote this when I thought that everything was okay. When he was 4 or 5 years old, even when he was 7, I continued to write as I had a hope for that things would get better, but I didn't write in my blog lately because I didn't know what to write. Nothing has changed for him. Yes, his speech development is improving. Yes, he is learning the names of migrating birds and so on. But his unwillingness to study, his uninvolvement into situation which he used to have before infodiving, that he doesn't hear, doesn't want to hear, doesn't want to do even if he hears, doesn't understand, is not present here and now. He is not conscious. And as I didn't know about infodiving and their tools, I didn't hope for anything, and I already surrendered myself to a sense of apathy. On one hand, I could do nothing. I was slightly disappointed. I could describe my state like this. A very long time ago, I was dreaming about overcoming autism completely, and it seems that I hasn't reached this dream. Before infodiving this year, we had an infodiving session on the 14th of February. How did you learn about infodiving? I was sent a movie about Tatiana and Yegor, which you have created. That is, she has simply sent it to me in WhatsApp or and so on. We keep in touch with her. Actually, we all know each other. I guess it started at David's. We all were in their group. And she sent me, and I watched it and asked her different stupid questions at first, and she was answering them patiently. But in fact, a couple of days was enough for me to realize that this was my chance, that this was my hope, what I needed and what I was looking for. And I wouldn't forgive myself and if I didn't study it out and try it. It was at least a hope for me. Of course, I understood nothing. I was far from this. I was not even Christian, and in general the world, the soul didn't touch my feelings at all. And now I have discovered a lot of new things and learned a lot. It was a hope for the results, and then we had also very quick results. I will tell you this story till the end. Our diagnosis wasn't proven in January, that was before. I felt nothing. I mean, it wasn't true. For that time, it wasn't true for me, and it meant nothing for me. They didn't prove the diagnosis, but therefore, when I came home, I saw that I had an autistic child at home. He knew a lot of things at his age. That is why he passed this test easily. They didn't let us in. Maxim was with an interpreter. He passed the test very well because he knows a lot of things. We have trained him, taught him. But he remained a special kid anyway. And when I wrote to girls, my friends, that our diagnosis hadn't been cancelled, they congratulated me, and I wrote that there was nothing to congratulate with. They said, "You have reached so much, your diagnosis hasn't been proven." And I was day and night with a kid who didn't need anything, whom you needed to shake like this. And so, being in this state close to desperation, of course I got interested in infodiving very quickly, because I needed this, and I had a feeling that I was able to change something, because I didn't have any more tools. We didn't do anything. We only took tentorium as a precaution. A child can be educated, trained, forced to dance, to sing, to tell a poem, to bone up. In fact, to make a doll, a toy, a puppet out of him. But it is impossible to turn on his consciousness with the help of existing medical, psychological methods. And we announce this simply and clearly. There is no other tool set except infodiving which allows to work with consciousness. Besides, my third child grew older and he stopped to develop. He was able to do a lot of things when he was 1 year, but when he turned 1.5, he had lost some skills or didn't gain any new ones. When there are 2 and more kids in the family and the eldest is autistic, then there, as a rule, the youngest copy behavior of the eldest. That is why there is a major risk that the youngest will have the same features as the eldest children. The Maxim situation was far from finishing. There was no any victory. We had just overcome some things. We have at least, 500 points of what we had overcome. But meanwhile, all the symptoms of autism remained. Compulsive speech, lack of motivation, waving hands, those wins. And his socialization, there was no socialization with kids. He was more or less communicating with his brothers in family. If he wasn't chatting all the time, all those cartoon phrases, yells and whisper, he would be almost the same as the usual kid in a family, because he did what we asked him. Maxim, step aside, pour some water, do this. But anyway, he needed this Maxim 1, Maxim 2. He needed this training. He did this only because of our direct instructions. But he did nothing by himself at the time we met infodiving. I think it is already time to tell about infodiving. The sad part is already over and the happy part begins. Infodiving took a lot of time, but now Natalia promised to respond to our kids very quickly, because we are looking forward for this. After I had sent the application form, I continued to listen and to watch. I had a hope. I was listening and observing, and I liked everything, and I was almost flying like a butterfly. I almost fell in love with Natalia, but it was just a hope. Nothing had changed in Maxim's situation, and the worst thing happened 3 days before the working through. Maxim had a crisis. I guess it was for me to show how bad the things really were. And at the time I made a video, because all the time before I had been trying to convince myself that things were not that really bad, that I was ungrateful, that my child was able to do so many things and I wasn't happy. I still had a hope that everything would be great one day, but I didn't have a hope for this. And in infodiving, at least, it showed me that the way out existed. Even before the moment we received the working through, that I was already waiting for that I would try in a little while, that I would have my own chance in a little while, that at first I would be told the reason, and at second that I would see it on my own child, because by the time it was difficult to impress me. During all those years, Maxim had learned so many things, and I was watching the videos of the others thinking someone's child began to ride a scooter or did another thing, and I was wondering what could Maxim do to surprise me in such way. So I would see that he had changed, and he really surpassed all my expectations. And 2 days before we received the working through, Maxim had had a very, very severe crisis, such a thing that he had been chatting 100% of time, and we had been in one apartment, and it was a crazy house. It had lasted for 2 days, and when the working through finally came, for me it was like manna from heaven, because it was already impossible to live like that. I wrote to everybody that things were going all right, but in fact I used to live in situations when I didn't want to live like that. I was just telling the others because I had no right to complain, because we had reached so much, and I was switching all the time between the idea that I had to stay happy and positive, and why did I have, if things were going that bad, and the working through itself, I was worrying a lot. We received it in the evening, and I hadn't felt anything similar for a long time, or maybe even never. I was shaking, my stomach was aching. I don't know, maybe I was scared to hear something, or maybe I was frightened to lose my hope that they would help us. And well, out of the working through, it became clear that they have found the reason, and they were the reason, and that they managed to take it away. And his neurons began to grow at once, and even Natalia and Andrew were surprised by this. They said that our story was unusual, that Maxim was unique, that they took away the reason and neurons began to grow. He used to have some problems in his head because of microcurrent therapy, and we were told to buy and to start taking mushroom, hericium marinacers, and we were also bought it. And when he woke up the next morning, I really noticed the changes at once. He came to me silent, and he used to have this compulsive speech all the time. He came to my room by himself and got under my blanket to cuddle, and he was silent. I asked him, "Why are you silent? Is something wrong?" He said, "Yes." I asked him, "What is wrong?" He said, "I have a sore throat." And a couple of more days after infodiving, he was complaining about his throat, that he was silent because of his throat. So it wasn't so obvious, but at home there was finally silence. And at the second day after infodiving, he told me, such a cliche, but anyway, he told me, "I also love you." This was exactly what Andrew told me in the working through, that I would notice him start expressing his feelings to me. And now, already almost 1 month after the working through, he sometimes comes to my room and says, "Mommy." He has never called me mommy, just mom. He called me mom for the first time when he was 6. And now he calls me mommy. And he comes to me in the mornings. And he lies with me for a long while, and he has begun to ask me a lot of questions. "Mommy, what is in your belly? Mommy, what's the color of your eyes?" Nothing like this has ever happened before. He just didn't care. "What do you have there, Mom?" "Where?" "In your belly." "Nothing." "The food is there in the belly." Misha is also laughing. Like everybody else, Mom has a belly button there. "Maxim, what is time?" 8:08. And it means that it is time to school. Right, yeah. And what school does Maxim go to? "Maxim, what school?" "I don't want to." "But you should." "To the Turkish school." "To the Turkish, that's right. And what will be today?" "Yesterday you had a birthday, and it means today you are going to bring the kids what?" "Sweets." "Yes, you will treat them with sweets." He began to ask questions when he was about 6 and a half, 7. The questions kinda What are these? Why? What for? He was asking them kind of automatically. And now he asks them more consciously. In general, his consciousness has turned on. Because they have taken the reason away, I saw the changes at once. I understood because of his eyes that Maxim was there. That there was not just a simple wish like, give me the phone, mom. But there was a wish to stay with me, to spend time with me, to tell me something. The main sign that a person's consciousness has turned on is that he begins to show his interest to life, to knowledge, to something new, because the interest is the main resource of forming this game, this reality. And only a conscious person who is aware of himself is able to show his interest in everything. Maxim surprised me a lot. At the third day he made me coffee, all by himself. I guess he wanted to treat me with coffee. And since that time, he has served me coffee. I didn't ask him for this, he came up with this by himself. He became more caring. If I cough, and he will take the effort, and if there's an autistic child who used not to care at all, he will take the effort and go downstairs to ask, Mom, why are you coughing? What has happened? This is his way to take care of me. Also his classes. We received the working through on Friday, and on Monday our usual school classes started. And it was different. First of all, he has begun to do his homework very quickly. He has stopped to get distracted. I guess now he has enough motivation. Explain, what is wrong here? They put a pen on the oven. Is this correct? Yes. By the way, Mom has pen on the oven. Does a salesman deliver mail? No. And what is wrong? What do you think? A salesman delivers mail. This never happens. What does a salesman do? He works in the shop. And who delivers mail? A postman. Right, yeah, autumn is time to go mushroom hunting, correct? Yes, dogs have wings. No. And what is wrong? They don't have wings? No. The birds have. After infodiving, the way he thinks has changed greatly. That is, he thinks quicker. He wants to answer. That's why he finds the answer in his memory very quickly. So there is the speed in his answers. And now I don't have to remind him to put a tick in the box anymore. This is when he used to pass the test before. He forgot to put a tick in the box. So little things like speed of his reaction, what he answers, how he answers. Now it's like he knows everything when he passed the tests. This video is also on my YouTube channel, and in some days, I guess in a week, I began to receive the comments from strangers where they asked, "What are you doing?" That is a different child. That is, they watched the previous videos and noticed. When his throat stopped taking, he also began to talk. He hasn't stopped chatting at all by now, but he has reduced the loudness of his voice a lot. That is, I have stopped to close the door. So during the 2 days when he had sore throat, I got used to this silence, how good it was, and now I have stopped to close the door when the baby sleeps. He continues to chat, but now he's chatting quietly, and to listen closely, because it's not clear what he says, he talks quietly. If to listen closely to what he's chatting, he is not chatting some cartoon nonsense, he comments everything. He does this the same way as my healthy 5-year-old child does. Oh no, I have lost. Oh no, these coins, I failed. So he is commenting everything. And now, if to pass by Maxim, and it's been over a month, he is playing on his own, and he asks all by himself, and I couldn't even imagine that he asks, "Mom, what are you doing?" And I'm passing by, for example, sweeping the floor, gathering the floors, for example, I tell him, "I'm sweeping the floor." And he tells me, "And I'm gathering the coins," for example, that this is his initiative. When I come home, he asks, "Mom, what have you brought me?" And these are absolutely usual conversations. Before, when he was playing on the phone, he had to leave the room at all. Even if there were some other children, the middle child, for example, I think he didn't like even the presence of the others when he was so much involved in the process on this phone. And now he comes on time. We have 1 hour of classes at 4, and his watch beeps at 4, and he puts away his tablet or phone and goes downstairs all by himself. And I has been dreaming about this. It was my dream that he takes me to have classes. He pulls me by the hand, "Mom, come quicker." He will serve me coffee, do anything if only I have a class with him. And he knows that after this he can have his free time. And during his classes and speech, it is already obvious that his speech becomes fluent, that it is now has a lack of some patterns, and he comments everything all the time. That is, during the class at the first he surprised me greatly, and even now even my husband has noticed this. In 3 weeks my husband has noticed this, and he began to turn to me and say, "He has just said this or that." And these were such unusual things. I have a video, I will send it to you and you will insert it in the movie, when he says such things like, "This is not so difficult to notice, Mom." Really? Like this. Maybe he has taken this phrase somewhere, but he used it appropriately with such a tricky voice. And such things has begun to happen very often. For example, we have a class and he meets some words there, for example, the Tambelina, and he says, "Oh, I remember, this is the girl who is very, very small." I mean, that some kind of associative field has turned on inside him. He speaks fluently, he answers my questions not just with yes or no, but with a detailed answer. When he had his 9th birthday just recently, for example, he said, "I have been living for 9 years." So I don't know such things. Who had told him this? It's not a pattern. This is absolutely his personal worldview, his own words, and nothing similar has ever happened before. Now he wants to try everything by himself. He's interested in everything. He is always involved. Now he always hears everything. It seems to me that he used to be like under the water before. I can explain it like this. And now he is above the surface. But it hasn't gone completely. It's not a magic. All his symptoms haven't gone in one day like that. His desire, his habit to chat, he has used to chat during so many years. Sometimes he waves his hands, but all this happens rarely now, and because of that he is conscious now. Even if he waves his hands, he looks at them like a fool, kind of asking himself, "What am I doing?" and puts down his hands. Or when he is chatting, it seems that he starts chatting, but then bang, and he stops himself. Such things are only becoming his new habits, but his consciousness is on, and it is obvious. He had his first haircut, but all by himself. We didn't have to stand around him, and we have a lot of kids, and usually we need to stand by Maxim. He recently had a haircut. He sat quietly. He posed as a model, and in general he was very happy. He told me that he was beautiful. We took a picture for school. We have entered a Turkish school. It's not clear yet which exactly. We got registered at the nearest school to our house, and we take him to the lessons there. He doesn't do much there yet because he doesn't know the language yet, but he attends it with pleasure, and I don't worry about him anymore, and I feel secure about him now. So now he attends the school, and we took the photos of it. Taking photos for us, it was like, I used to have a high-functioning autistic child when he was 8 years old. But it wasn't enough for me because it was not what I intended. I didn't need this high functionality. I wanted to have a healthy child. And now, finally, I have reached this result. Maxim has been able to get help. He had such an unusual reason, which they have managed to take away completely. He had spheres in his head, and they took them away completely. Now Maxim has taken control over himself, and it is obvious. It is obvious because of his involvement. Requests, for example, you make him any complicated request. Maxim, do this and that, And he does everything. Before, he wasn't able to do anything like this. You had to tell him where to go, what to take, which trousers, where to put them on. And now he simply comes already. He comes completely dressed. He has found what to put on. He has decided what to put on by himself. He goes downstairs by himself. He knows what to do. He used to like a lot all these patterns, and now he does everything more consciously, with comprehension. And in the family, he is completely involved all the time now. He hears everything, where we are going to go, what we are going to do. He asks everything, he comments everything. He is willing to speak. He had never been willing during all those years of therapy. He is able to explain what he wants. He still has a poor vocabulary, because for so many years he has been using the same speech patterns. But now he says such things. I don't use such phrases, so I guess he's trying to speak from himself, like a person. Because he used to speak like a robot, like a bot before, like a computer. Like when you talk to Alice, the same. He was the same high functional as Alice. I mean, he used to talk nonsense. Sometimes he understood, sometimes he didn't, and now he is involved. And the last weekend we spent outside, and he was helping me with babysitting. And he has never did this before. I could only put him near the baby to take a photo. Have a walk with him, I will take a nice photo of you. And here the baby's head fell down, and he ran up to him and put the head back on the baby's head. So these are such little things. And here he doesn't get stuck as he used to. Like when we came to the playground and he was bored, now he finds what to do. And yesterday when we were leaving the beach, he said that he wanted to stay longer. I want to walk, I want to play more. So now he doesn't want to go home. And before he used to go to his room, he is already a big boy and he has his own room. He closed the door and he could sit there for hours. And now he is back with us, and so many little details. I'm really happy now. We can see that only in 3 or 4 weeks after the working through, the mother has noticed the changes. Her child become more calm, independent. His educational motivation has appeared. He studies with pleasure. He asks to have classes. He goes to school with pleasure. He babysits his baby brother. He shows his emotions. His speech has become conscious. He keeps to the point. Well done. Bravo, infodivers. I'm happy for Maxim, for his progress. And because I'm so happy, I write about this happily. And people consider this to be because of my euphoria. So to those people who consider this to be euphoria, I will say that my youngest child, as I was in a state of euphoria, I thought that my youngest son would also improve because of my good mood. I was making plans, I had a new reality. Maxim was healthy and everything was great. I was happy, but meanwhile, when I had observed my youngest child during all these 3 weeks, until my youngest son received his working through, I had observed my youngest child, and this was killing all my joy. Because my youngest child, in his 1.5, at first he couldn't do more things when he was 1 year old and when he was 1.5. That he didn't learn any new things. It wasn't a regression. I didn't consider those things to be autistic because I saw that he felt bad. He used to lie, to pile off in his toys. That is, he used to shift them from place to place, not to play with the toys, but to shift them. He was was lying instead of learning new things. He didn't speak, he didn't have a point in gesture, and he was already 1.5 years. I wanted his progress, and there wasn't any, all those strange things, and I was constantly worrying about him. I stopped being worried about Maxim. Maxim had a huge list of his improvements. I wrote all of them down, because I'm posting in my blog, and I just have this habit. I have photos, his mimics and sight have changed. I mean, his sight has become more conscious, and the youngest child didn't have such changes. Although I was happy most of the time, I could spend a day without worrying, thinking that my middle son's symptoms have gone, as he also used to have something. He had such a phase from 1.5 up to 2 years when he frightened me, but we began to give him tentorium, and we made him an intellect therapy, I mean my second child. And by the age of 2, I set my heart at rest. And in this case, it wasn't that I was frightened that he had the same, no. We hadn't even given him vaccinations. I doubted a lot the idea that he could develop autism, but on the other hand, why he wasn't developing? Yesterday we received the working through for Misha. I decided if I was able to help him, why shouldn't I do this? At least they could see the reason and help him somehow. And it turned out to be an absolutely different story, and they could really help him. Natalia and Andrew helped him, and the most important that I came down. And already yesterday he said ooh, because he couldn't talk at all before. He wasn't able to repeat, and now he takes a plane, we have a plane, he takes it and says ooh. And he used to pronounce the only word echo. And only sounds, that he couldn't pronounce even syllables. He didn't say neither mom nor something similar. And today he said mom. It was the 8th of March, so he congratulated me. That is, I don't worry about him anymore. Infodivers helped me, they answered my questions about future. As a rule, autistic children don't have a designed scenario about their career, relationship, family, children. And due to our work to infodiving, after we turn on the child's consciousness, his parents get a chance to see their grandchildren. And then the child starts adding to his scenario some kind of accomplishments, relationship and education, and his life goes upwards. I'm very positive now. I'm so happy and grateful. I have never been promised a miracle. I have never been promised a complete recovery. And here, besides, they have taken away the reason Maxim used to have. And I think it is also because of this he has such a quick breakthrough. His neurons are growing and he's getting better right before our eyes. It hasn't been even a month and I have an absolutely different child. And even strangers, men and women, they see this. And now he looks at me all the time and he asks something either about my eyes or about something else. What hair do you have, mom? That is, he's interested in everything, and he began to kiss me in lips. It's funny, he thought this up all by himself, and now we are just waiting. We need only time. I come to peace. And I rewrote his diagnosis. He is an next autist, and besides, they haven't even proved his diagnosis. All came together. I wasn't glad when they just cancelled the diagnosis for the sake of box checking. And now when I have found tools and I have the results, and now I think that we will add the necessary therapies. We will recommend Chestov's method for articulation. Maxim still has some speech problems, so now we complete such a great therapy for his articulation. And he understood it from the first time. It was very complicated. I'm an adult and I was writing it down for myself. It is necessary to repeat syllables a specific number of times, 9 times syllables according to the scheme, then 3 times the whole word and 7 times the whole sentence. From the first time I was making the first video, it was the first time when I showed his therapy to Maxim, and he completed it better than me. And now he attends Turkish school from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. and not even speaking the language. He spends all day there, and I don't worry about him because I know that he won't study there, but at least he's adequate. Now his consciousness is on, his speech has become more fluent. We haven't yet noticed his progress at the social level during this month. I mean, that I haven't seen yet that he is interested in girls or boys. I haven't had a chance yet. As I don't see him at school, parents are not allowed there. They close the doors, so I don't see. But he came after his birthday and he treated everyone with sweets. That is, somehow he interacts with them. But for now, it's like this. I say for now because, again, he needs time to start exploring the spheres of life, which we consider to be as far as the moon. And now, just a few steps are left for him to start making friends, to fall in love, and so on. Now I believe that Maxim will be alright, and I wish the same to the others, because this is at least a hope, not a hope, this is a result. The hope helped me to move on all these 9 years. Just a hope with no tools is nothing. I mean, it's really nothing, because I wanted to put a full stop during all this time. And now I even try not to say it out loud. My husband and I call it a word, because I consider it to be in the past. I deleted all the groups on Facebook. I'm not interested at all. This is not my topic anymore. Please tell us, how come you believe in info diving? There are people somewhere 1,000 miles away, they haven't seen your child, they do something weird and take money for this. How did you decide to agree on this? Like everybody else, I think. At first there were some doubts. I watched the video which Tanya had sent to me, and at first I didn't understand that it was about her, because I haven't seen her. I didn't understand that it was her video at first. I thought it was just some information. A lot of people did. As I'm a blogger, a lot of people write to me and they write such weird things about camel's urine. It's true. So they share with me the ideas, ask what I think about this or that therapy. So at first I perceived it just as information. That for somebody it was helpful. For me it's very important criteria, and I always consider this. The less people believe this, know this, the high probability is that it really works, because we have already tried everything that doesn't work. Your movies were very helpful. First of all, I watched all of your videos, then I studied the table. I know a lot of these people. For me they are not just some grannies and mothers, for me they are my comrades in arms. So I had no doubts. I thought that it really helps. And the way it helps wasn't already so important. For me, it was important that they find a reason. Because without a reason, why did I give Tintorium vitamins to my son? Because I knew that they hit the aim. And I didn't care that I knew it was a multi-level marketing company, that it cashed in on me. It was important that they hit the reason. And that time I considered GIT and fermentation problems to be the reason. Because of vaccination, GIT problems had started. And I haven't vaccinated my younger children because of this. And here they promised to find an individual approach, to find the reason, and the most important, to help, to give some tips, to advise. So in general, it was even above my request. I haven't even expected this. And I began to write to my friends. This is such an interesting topic, read about it. And I thought that they would also read it and also decide that we used to try such nonsense. The girls I know, they, sorry for that, gave MMS enemas to their kids. And this is, just think of it, sodium chloride. They were okay with this, to stuff their kids with drugs, neuroleptics. It was welcome. And to read, to listen about the soul, and it was for free. I sent them the link, just read, just listen. Here are 50 moms, and they responded to me in different ways. I'm Christian, my husband is atheist, I don't believe, and so on. And the more I read, the more I realized that I didn't care why and how, because it seemed to me that Natalia talked sense and very wise things, and it was all very interesting to me. Of course, my logic was struggling. It was difficult for me to listen without some proper knowledge, but the results were obvious. I saw the parents' pain. I saw this sincere joy and happiness because of their children has changed. Many kids have had their diagnosis cancelled. Many of them haven't proven their diagnosis, the same as in our case, considered misdiagnosed. And the most important, Tanya has added me to her chat. She posted the video and I saw an absolutely healthy child. I didn't see any problems at all, because my child at the time before infodiving didn't want at all to talk, to answer so easily. And he did everything only after Maxime, do it. My husband, if I just sent it to him, he wouldn't believe it. So I didn't send him anything. I was expressing him my emotions in words. I told him, I will be very happy, that I need this, that I can't neither eat nor sleep, let's pay for it. And we paid on the third day with our credit card, because at that moment we didn't have any free money. And then there was some expectation. I continued to read, to listen, and also to learn a lot of new things for me. But I still couldn't understand what we would receive. I couldn't understand what was our reason and the details, and when we received it, everything just fell into place. There was a certain reason. They managed to take it away, to fix, to turn on all those things which infodivers usually turn on, to write what they usually write. Besides, during those 50 minutes, they also told about my husband and me, and everything was true to our situation, and we didn't have any doubts left. No matter how they did it, it was true. It could be true, and the most important, I also wanted it to be true. That That is all came together. Everything I was told to do in my working through, I did. And I did it for several times. And I have even bought that mushroom. And I canceled those scenarios. And then we also received the working through for our youngest son. It was an absolutely different story, and they also managed to help. At this moment, I'm really happy because I have received these results, and I will receive even more. During these 9 years, I was desperate for so many times. At this point, it is both easier and more difficult for me because it was easier for me to believe, but to reach this bad condition when I'm ready to work and to trust, I had to go through crisis again. Because everything seemed to be already pretty good, and my crisis helped me to attracting for divers, so you could enter my life. I wasn't already looking for anything. At this moment, by his ninth year, we have tried everything there exists in the market. We have tried everything. The only thing left for me was to close my ears like this, not to hear him talking, and to move on telling everybody how happy I am, although it wasn't true. And now, everything has changed. I'm really happy, because everything is going to be great. And now it is even not a hope, but the result which I have. And now I want just to say thank you. Thank you for giving me this result. This is an incredible mother, a heroic mother, who has checked through her own experience all the methods of curing autism. And due to that, her child was a multifunctional autist. And he had a lot of skills. We have received such an incredible quick result, because the only thing we had to do was to turn on his consciousness. It shows that you need to practice with your children anyway, even if the result is not obvious at once. Finally, everything gives its rewards.